Hey plant peeps, welcome to LPLR Orchids. Thanks for checking in. We're gonna look at an experiment plant tonight. This is the RLC Chialin Red Sun. This is a a pretty popular hybrid, and there's a lot of the Chialin Red hybrids and various options available. A lot of people love it. Just for me, the color combination between the red of the lip with the purple kind of maroon and there was orange, I don't know, it's just not my favorite coloration. But I have to say, this has been one of the strongest orchids I think we have. So a quick backstory. We did a video on this in early summer describing our treatment of it, which is an experiment. We pretty much just have abused this plant now for over a year, almost a year. And yeah, it's still alive, but it's still mostly alive. It's got 3 green canes and 3 more or less yellow pseudobulbs. Well, the pseudobulbs are still green, the leaves are yellowing. It's an amazingly hardy plant. We put it outside earlier than our other orchids, and we left it there. We let it get completely waterlogged for several days, down into the 40s at night for months, really on end. And then in the peak of the summer, it was just, in the garden in full sun. So we didn't really give it any protection. And amazingly, it's still alive. No, it's got some problems. Oh, and the experiment is continuing. So let's fast forward before I just discuss the problems. The experiment is now continuing. So we aren't getting rid of it yet because we won't until we actually meet its demise. Yeah, this plant, once we brought it in, so we brought it in later, the very last orchid that we grew outside this summer, this was the last one we brought in. And then we just immediately threw it right in the back hallway where it gets the lowest light of any of our orchids. And that's the back door, which we often open to ventilate the apartment so it gets cold drafts and breeze. And we've only been watering it once every 3 weeks or so, if that. Really, we've only watered it a couple times over the last couple months. So we're really abusing this because you always hear that a lot of Cattleyas need kind of like a dormant rest period. So I'm like, well, we'll just use this as the test and just see how long this particular RLC hybrid can go without water. And it's still going. Now it's mid-November, no, late November. Thanksgiving was just yesterday. Sorry, happy belated Thanksgiving, American friends. Yeah, now I'm in Europe and we don't celebrate. Well, we do, but we don't officially celebrate. Anyway, so let's look closely at this plant and see what some of the problems are now that it's been really abused for a long time. Let's look close. Just for the record, it did start growing a new growth. I'm not exactly sure when, late summer, it started putting on this little growth, and now it's this tall, so maybe 6-8 inches tall or so, not even. Yeah, somewhere in there. But let's look closely at the rhizome, like the growing part of the plant, and there's a couple issues that definitely I think need to be at least acknowledged, looked at. But before we do that, we want to show you another Cattleya that we kind of got freaked out about this fall when it was moved inside. And so let me grab that plant really quickly, and then we'll come back to this particular RLC Gulf Green Hairpig. This plant has not bloomed for us yet, so we're still, trying to get it to bloom. Now this particular RLC hybrid Cattleya type, it grew 3 new growths starting in late summer, and one of them is this tall growth that's over a foot long, 12 to 15 inches long, and the same with this one here coming up through here. They haven't opened yet, but they're nice and tall, standing upright. We have them growing near the window, also now inside. This plant was also grown outside over the summer, but we grew it in a more protected location, and it is self-draining, and it's in a clay pot. The Chilean red sun is in a plastic pot. So that's one big difference. They're both grown in the same media, by the way, which is coarse bark with 50% leca, so 50 bark, 50 leca. That's just what we grow most of our orchids in. And yeah, now this particular guy, the issue that we saw was here at the base of this particular growth point, the part of the rhizome here that sticks out, right there on the end. There's a little brown spot, maybe you can see, and that brown spot was a growth that had started and was about this tall, maybe a month ago. So these guys were only about this tall here, and this little growth was half the size. And anyways, these had shown some pink around the base of the growing shoots, which, I've heard about these like pink, I can never remember. There's so many like diseases and things. There's like some disease that particularly seems to attack RLC, Cattleya types, and it makes this red ring. And one of the signs is if it's like red on the growth point. Well, all three of the new growths had shown this pinkish hue to the base of the new growing stem. So I got all freaked out and I said, well, I'll cut the smallest one and look inside the cross cut face of the little shoot and see if there's this red ring. And when I did that, there was no red ring. It looked absolutely healthy. All the tissue was fine. And since then, the two new growths have now shot up and really gotten strong. And so I'm not too upset about that. It did have 3 growth points. Now it has 2, but I'm sure like the, apical pruning of this particular part of the growth point hopefully will encourage it to back bud, and force the others to grow again and grow more. I don't know. Anyway, that's just general plant theory crap. I hope it works to my favor, because we did chop one of the new growths and it was fine. So I'm not worried about this one in any way. It's looking really good. We water this particular one every week and a half, and as we go through, December and January, I'll just cut it down to 2 weeks based on what I've seen with our other RLC, this hybrid here, which again, we only water the other one every 3 weeks now. And I'm going to keep cutting back the water and see if I can get away with watering it once a month for the next couple months. But this guy we're going to water every couple weeks as we go through winter inside. Yeah, so that's the deal on this diagnosis that was false. Let's get this one out of the pot and you can see it a little more closely, hopefully. So down at the base here, hopefully you can see that this little part of the rhizome is like blackish, and so is the part down here. Now, I don't want to go all touching this. I believe that this is this like black rot that is talked about and shown on a lot of videos about RLCs. I think. I don't know. And I'm just going to let it keep growing after, the videos that I've seen and the things I've read about this type of rot where the base of the growing, meristems or the growing part of the rhizome will turn black, or some parts of the rhizome and the pseudobulbs will turn black. And that is indicative of some kind of a fungal rot, I believe, or black rot. And it will spread, so you don't, as far as I know, you don't necessarily want to go like touching this and then go touching other plants. But again, this is an experiment plant, so we do keep it segregated from our other plants. We grow it in quarantine in the little back hallway, and I'm going to wash my hands real well before I go touching any of the other orchids. Now, again, am I concerned? Well, kind of. because, you know, this plant will die. And I gotta say, this has been the most tenacious, stubborn, unwilling to kick the bucket orchid that we have owned. Without a doubt, this thing. Again, it is the Chialin Red. So I gotta hand it, as much as I may not like the coloration, color combo on the flower, a lot of people do. So we're gonna keep doing what we're doing. Again, we're gonna cut back on the water. You can see the mixture, it's in like bark, 50% bark and leca. The roots are super dry right now. It's in a pretty small pot. This does retain a little bit of water, but I drained it all out. Normally it retains a little water in this bottom lip here, but again, I drained it out every time we give it a little dabble. And when we do water it, we just only give it a little drizzle of water. We don't soak it for like 15 minutes like we do with our other orchids. So yeah, I gotta say, you know, experiment with your plants. You might be amazed by how, let's say, resilient the orchids can be. They're truly tough. I mean, some of these hybrids, you know, they're amazing. Now this one does show signs of this pink. I don't know if you can kind of see it. There's like a lot of pink up here. I don't know, maybe I'm just freaking out, like it's got this pink fungus or virus, whatever it is with Cattleyas too. So this is kind of a failure, but also kind of a success. I'm actually really, really happy with how this experiment is going. And it gives me a lot of confidence. So just really quick, if you're a returning viewer, thanks a lot. And sorry we didn't post last weekend. I've been sick for like 3 weeks with like a chest, respiratory, and then I threw my back out. And I went through all my back stock of recorded videos, and so we didn't get to post last weekend. So I'm really sorry about that, guys. Not that anybody really cares. And if you're new to the channel, then hey, maybe think about hitting that subscribe button, you know, where we show some of our crazy shenanigans and experimenting and stressing your plants, you know, isn't necessarily thought of as a good thing in the greater orchid community online. But I think, you know, every now and then, if you can get the right plant that you don't mind doing it, you can really learn a whole lot about what these things will tolerate. When I was sick here over the last couple weeks, last weekend, you know, I couldn't move because of my back, and the boss had prior engagements. Like basically she was engaged the whole weekend, so she couldn't help me water, and we just talked about it and said, you know what? Let's just not water this week and let's see what happens. And everything is absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong at all. The plants haven't suffered. You know, I think sometimes we may be, especially in like if you live in a northern climate like us and you grow inside, the days are short and they're cold and the plants just aren't really doing much. So I think you can get away with watering a little bit less. And definitely upon reflection, in our first year of growing orchids, we were watering way too much through the winter. And our Phalaenopsis, they took a huge hit. We lost a lot of phals our first year due to overwatering through the winter. And now I've learned to relax on them and everything's in bloom. Right now we have our highest percentage of phals in bloom, which to me is a good milestone. And another quick success. I have to show you this before we go. I'm super excited. Hold on. All right. So for those, again, who have followed the channel, you know our struggles with Catasetum orchids. We have grown them for like over 4 years, basically, and we have never been able to get one to bloom. We have now 5 Catasetums we've owned for several years and 1 little cutting that's thankfully still alive. But this year we have a little bit of a success. So we finally have a Catasetum that's in spike, and I'm over the moon. I mean, look at how fat this pseudobulb is. This is by far, like they always say, like when you watch these videos, if you want a Catasetum to bloom, it's got to grow like a fat pseudobulb, and that's a chunky pseudobulb. And this is a really cool inflorescence. I mean, 1, 2, 3, I don't know. There's probably like 10 or 12 little buds on there. I know we're like burying the lead. We aren't gonna like we'll show this. So check back in, subscribe, and yeah, don't be afraid to work with your plants a little bit, see what they can tolerate. I think you may be surprised with the orchids, and you may experience some success. Oh, we've worked so hard on these. Thanks for checking in, guys. Hope you're having a good one, and we will see you back here at El Pilar soon.